The British Empire was the largest empire that ever existed. Ever. Bigger than the Mongols and the Russians, in fact. It was so big, it covered just about 25% of the Earth's surface at that time. It had territory in every single continent, and it was called the Empire where the sun never set, which was true, because every day, on at least one part of the empire, the sun would still be shining. Just to show you how gargantuan the empire was compared to Britain itself, here's the UK, and here are just a couple of its colonies. Yeah, that's only a couple of its colonies. Anyway, let's talk about how it came to be. And all I really need to say is, 1066, William the Conqueror conquers England, Battle of Hastings, blah blah blah. Fast forward to the late 1400s and woo-wee! Christopher Columbine discovered America. Time to conquer. After a while, they set up colonies in the Caribbean, and eventually the 13 colonies. Congrats, you set up your first colonies. Oh, looks like France doesn't like you very much. But you win a war against them anyway, thanks to your loyal, faithful colonists that will definitely stay by your side all the time. We don't like you very much, Britain. But why? We love you. We love our great colonies. Taxation without representation is theft! One war and revolution later, the British lose control of the colonies and the American patriots win the war. Well, frick. What are we gonna do now? While the 13 colonies were under British rule, they would send their convicted and prisoners from the Britain up there. But once they lost them, they had to find another way to get more money and resources, and also find another place to deport prisoners. Captain James Cook, who loved to discover places, just like Christopher Columbo, and had discovered the eastern coast of Australia and claimed the island for the British crown. A few little discoveries and wars with Napoleon later, it's time for the Industrial Revolution, baby, and time for Britain to go nuts with colonization. They had the East India Company, dominated Africa from Cairo to Cape Town, British Raj, which is now India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, and Nepal. They got good chunks of the Middle East, Cyprus, Sudan, Egypt. There's another one! Oh yeah, did I mention Canada? The Caribbean, Australia, Tasmania, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, pretty much all of Oceania. Anyway, it's time for World War I, and during the war, after the invasion of Belgium by Germany, the empire would be at its maximum height. And after World War I is over, now you know what time it is. It's World War II time, baby! After World War II, and the defeat of the Axis powers, the world was sort of in a no more empires anymore kind of mood, and this led to the fall of the Japanese Empire, and some others. But this would mainly lead to the British Empire falling, which was unfortunate because the current king didn't even want to be king, but now he has to oversee the empire having to decolonize all of the colonies, and the end of the empire. This is a map of the empire right after World War I. This is a map of the empire in 1959. By 1980, British South Rhodesia became fully independent and became Zimbabwe. In 1997, their 99-year lease on Hong Kong expired, marking the end of the empire. While the USA is today's largest superpower, the British Empire at its height was definitely the world's largest superpower back in the day. May, stop messaging me, you retard. Anyway, while the British maintained them, the economy of the British Empire's colonies went a little something like this. British Raj, or British India, was by far the largest economy of the British, comprising 49 to 50% of the empire's total wealth. That's half of it already, just on one territory. Right after that is the British Isles themselves, with about 37% of the empire's total wealth. After that is Ireland, with 3 to 4% of the total GDP. After that is Canada, with 2.3%. Then Australia, with 2.1%. Then after that is Egypt, Sri Lanka, Hong Kong, Singapore, New Zealand, and many others. You can just see how overpowered British India was, because it takes up half of the total GDP. The population of the empire was sort of like this. Like most of the stats of the empire, British India takes the cake. The highest population in the empire is British Raj, with 40 million people, and that's just at the beginning. By the time India gained independence, there was about 300 million people. Holy cow! Wait, that makes sense, because India, holy cow. Anyway, the population of British India was about 70 to 71% of the population of the empire. After that, just like the GDP, is good old Britain itself with 10%. After that is British Africa with another 10%. And after that is some other Asian colonies with about 3%. After that's Canada and the Caribbean with 2%. After that is Oceania with about 1.7%. And after that is everything else with about 2.3% of the population. So what's the moral of the story? Don't mess with the little guy, because he'll conquer 25% of the known world, massacre you, starve you, tax you, win 2 of the world wars, and then fall and die and go back to its original place with a couple of territories islands and stuff. I don't know. Yeah.